Good morning, I'm Ed Lingao. It is Monday, the 25th of August, bringing Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Senator Ping Lacson commends Batangas Congressman Leandro Leviste for refusing an alleged 360 million peso bribe related to infrastructure projects, calling him an example for other public servants. Leviste's office, meanwhile, confirms that the case against a DPWH district engineer will be filed tomorrow, August 26. Economic sabotage. This is how President Bongbong Marcos describes the issues he observed after inspecting a 260 million peso rock shed in Benguet.
It is not only the damage, the physical damage that we can see, but it is also the damage to the economy. It is also the damage to the people's livelihood.
And Professor Mahar Lagmay, the head of the UP Resilience Institute, is urging a shift in strategy for flood mitigation. He warns that relying solely on infrastructure is a flawed approach and insists that scientific consultation is a crucial first step for local governments. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, the Office of Batangas 1st District Congressman Leandro Leviste confirms that a case will be filed against the DPWH district engineer on Tuesday, August 26. The engineer has been identified as DPWH Batangas 1st District Engineer Abelardo Calalo. In a statement, Leviste's office stressed that corruption in the DPWH should not be tolerated and emphasizes the need for proper oversight of government projects. Meanwhile, a DPWH district engineer was allegedly arrested following an entrapment operation in Taal, Batangas over the weekend. Senator Panfilo Lacson commends Leviste for rejecting what he said was a bribe worth up to 360 million pesos and expressed hope that other public officials would follow his example. Leviste is investigating flood control projects in his district, noting that many of them are substandard. President Bongbong Marcos blasted what he called economic sabotage after inspecting a 260 million peso rock shed project in Benguet. Here's the story.
Only one lane is now passable along this portion of Cannon Road in Sitio Camp 6, Tuba, Benguet. That's because part of the road collapsed, leaving massive rocks, soil, and mud blocking the way. Some of the debris even slid down to the river bank. This prompted President Bongbong Marcos to express disappointment during his inspection of the recently completed rock shed in the area.
You can see for yourself na talagang hindi trinabaho ng mabuti ito.
The Department of Public Works and Highways spent more than 260 million pesos for the construction of the rock shed from January 2023 to April 2025. But the President questioned what he saw on the ground.
Sa ilalim ng kalsada, which is the most important part, ay wala na. Talagang na-erode na. Dahil yung slope protection dito sa baba, sa tabi ng ilog, ay napakababa at napakahina.
DPWH Cordillera denied that slope protection was part of the project, which is normally used to prevent landslides along rivers and streams.
Ang pinanggalingan ng slide is sa taas. It's not even part of the project. It's not part of the road right-of-way. So yung malalaking bato na tumipak doon sa existing na slope protection. Actually, yung slope protection dito is constructed since 20,000. So, 15 years na yung life ng slope protection na existing dito.
But for the President, the failed project amounts to economic sabotage. That's because more than 30% of residents have lost their livelihood after half of the road was damaged.
It is not only the damage, the physical damage that we can see, but it is also the damage to the economy. It is also the damage to the people's livelihood. Tinanggal sa kanila 35% ng kanilang hanap buhay para ibulsa ang pera ng gobyerno.
The local government of Tuba has already written to DPWH to expedite repairs.
Ang trabaho nila is standard, hindi substandard. Kasi kami naman maapektuhan pag mag-aaksyon kami, hindi naman kami inaaksyonan.
The President added that the government will end up spending double to fix the problem, a claim disputed by DPWH.
This is 260 million project. Useless. parang tinapon mo yung pera sa ilog. Useless. To correct this will cost double that. Para ayusin yung binigay ninyong problema sa amin, it will cost another 260 million, probably double 260 million, hanggang 500 million na yan.
No, our initial estimate here is more or less around 100 million. Wala naman tayong i-restore dito sa rock shed. Ang i-restore natin is yung nasira ng bagyo.
Aside from the rock shed, the president also inspected a rock netting project along another section of Cannon Road. He stressed that corruption is also rampant in such projects.
Napaka-notorious ng rock netting to as corruption, pinabawal na. Pero ginawa pa rin. Ang presyo ng rock netting is 3,200 pesos. Ang chinarge sa gobyerno is more than 12,000 pesos. So times 4. Times 4. So 75% ng kontrata kinikback.
The president vowed to restore the power of local governments to scrutinize infrastructure projects in their areas, including flood control.
Pampanga Governor Lilia Pineda admits that she had little knowledge of most flood control projects in her province. According to the Sumbong sa Pangulo website, Pampanga received 293 flood control projects from 2022 to 2025, totaling over 14.5 billion pesos. The governor personally inspected only the slope protection project in Candating Arayat, which was built in 2018 for 20 million pesos. Frequent damage have since required additional repair funds of 91.6 million pesos in 2023 and 183 million pesos the next year, 2024. Pineda advised the Department of Public Works and Highways to halt the project, citing design flaws and inefficiency.
Kasi sayang yung pera. Kahit dagdagan mo pa ng bilyon yan, wala na talaga yan kasi wala sa design. Hindi talaga nararapat na gawin.
She also noted that flooding in the province has worsened, with water levels rising from knee to chest height in some areas.
Sa halip na bumaba yung tubig, lalong lumala. Dati hanggang tuhod lang, hanggang bewang, ngayon hanggang dibdib na.
Manila 3rd District Congressman Joel Chua has accused Manila Mayor Isko Moreno of being a bully mayor. Chua said Moreno was selective in demolishing structures across the city and often targeted political opponents. The clash began during Moreno's inspection in Santa Cruz, where he discovered that the Rasak-covered court had been demolished and replaced by a construction project allegedly linked to Chua. Chua defended himself, saying lawmakers can only propose projects while the DPWH is responsible for its implementation. And joining us now is Manila 6th District Congressman Benny Abante to weigh in on the clash between Mayor Isko and Congressman Chua. Sir, magandang umaga and thank you for joining us.
Magandang umaga, Ed. Magandang umaga sa iyo. Long time no see.
Long time no see, sir. Been a while since you've been here, huh?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes, sir. Sir, teka, I understand this. I suppose it's a different district kasi Joel Chua belongs, I think, to the 3rd District. You're in the 6th District. Pero at least as far as processes are concerned, paano bang kalakaran dito? Kasi ang understanding ko nung Biyernes, si Mayor Isko nagalit dahil hindi raw humingi ng permit o nag-secure ng permit to demolish at the very least yung nag-implement ng project na funded through the allocation to Congressman Joel Chua. Pero anong pagkalakalan yan? Who implements, who proposes, and who does all these things about permits?
Kung naniniwala naman si Mayor Isko na talagang yan ay project ni Congressman Chua, ang pinakamagandang gawin dyan tawagan niya at mag-usap silang dalawa Palagay ko naman Congressman Chua would go ahead and talk with the Mayor Isko para malinawan yan sa akin hindi kagad yung bigla na lang gigibain, no? Kinakailangan mo natin ng maigi kung talagang walang permit yan, for example. Okay, walang permit yan. But that is a national project. So, ibig sabihin, maaaring dapat informahan ng City Hall of Manila. Ako gagawin ko yan, no? Before anything that can be done in my district, i-inform namin ang City of Manila to find out kung anong masasabi nila dyan. Pero palagay ko, na pag-uusapan muna yan, Ed. I think that is about it for a while bago magitaan eh.
Yes, sir. But what I mean is, as a matter of processes and procedures go, syempre, the money is coursed through Congress kasi it's Congress that allocates the money or the budget for these projects. Pero the implementation, I suppose, would be up to, for example, the DPWH. Would the congressman have anything to do pa with securing, for example, permits? Kasi at the outset, parang yun ang unang pinagawa yan eh.
Actually, tama yung sinabi ni Congressman Chuan. They're just requesting the DPWH, ito pwedeng gawin to. It is up to the DPWH kung talaga gagawin nila o hindi. Sila naman ang humahawak ng pondo eh. Oo nga, siguro, pondo ng congressman yan na hiniling. Pero the DPWH is the one that will implement that. Nasa kanila yung pera. Ang pinakamaganda siguro ginawa ng DPWH nakipag-usap muna ng City Engineer of Manila. O siguro naman, kung yan ang kini-question ng ating mayor, pinakamaganda niyan kausapin na ng city engineer yung nagpagawa, yung mismong DPWH nagpagawa niyan.
So what I mean is it the congressman who talks to the city engineer or the DPWH? From what you're saying, I understand it's the city engineer who should talk to DPWH.
It must be. The DPWH and the city engineer should talk about it, no? Pwede naman sigurong i-inform yan ni Mayor Isko sa kanya city engineer. You call up the DPWH about that and find out kung ano maaaring magawin dito. Pero pag merong, if there is a political color in that, iba na po yan.
Do you see political color here?
It might be because in a way, Congressman Chua is not with Mayor Isko in the last election.
Okay.
Sa akin lang, Ed, it would be good if we will not involve any politics in any project that we have because that is for the people anyway. It's not for us.
Certainly.
That's for the people, no? At kinakailangan mo ng talagang tinang maigi o kailangan ba ng mga tao yan? The people need that and I think that the barangay should also be informed about that, no? Ang pinakamaganda talaga niyan, it must be the people that know the city engineer and DPWH should talk about it.
Sir, the second level, I suppose, is this: exactly how much coordination, from your experience, exactly how much coordination is there between, for example, a political office, like for example, a congressman proposing a project, and the LGU? Let's just use your office as an example. Gaano karaming coordination na ginagawa ninyo pag meron kayong proposed project with the local government unit?
Well, noon wala kaming problema eh. I do not have any problem with that. Whether the city of Manila is informed or not, no. The mayor does not in any way meddle with whatever projects we have, no. In fact, he's very happy about it because it helps the people actually. Kami naman bilang congressman, alam ko na dapat ang talagang gawin ng congressman ay gumawa ng batas. Totoo yan. But we are also tasked by the government to be able to see the projects that are needed in our district. And because of that, yun ang sinasabi namin sa kanila, ito kailangan ipagawa ito. We would like to build a multipurpose hall here. Ngayon, syempre, the government would allocate funds for that and then they will give it to the DPWH and DPWH will be the one to implement that. So, even if we as congressmen would perhaps make the law, we are also stewards of a good steward of every project in our district. To us, okay nga sa akin kung hindi ko napakailaman yung mga proyektong yan ang sa akin we'll just make laws, fine with me. But the people expect more. It's not just us, it is the people that expect more for that.
Sir, exactly how common itong mga ganitong klaseng bangayan between the local congressman and the LGU? From what you've seen, from your experience, I haven't seen something like this in a while, yung nag-aaway yung dalawa.
Well, during my stint in Congress, I never had any problem with the mayor, even if the mayor is not with our party or that the mayor is not with me in the election. The mayor would always allow projects like that for the people. Sabi ko nga, if we would just get away from politics, that would be better. Sabi ko, you can go to my district and find out for yourselves kung ano pagkagawa ng mga proyekto ko dyan. And if somehow, some way, nag-violate sa city code ng building code na yan. And then let's talk about it. Find out what we can do about it.
Okay. Sir, cambio naman ako ng konti. Of course, the past few days, we've been looking at flood control projects, well, actually throughout the country, but last week lalo, dun sa Maynila, bahang-baha dun sa Maynila.
Yes.
Your assessment of how the flood control projects are, number one, being chosen or selected, and number two, being implemented, specifically in Manila?
Actually, my district is the catch basin of lahat ng mga dumi and waste. Sa distrito ko, dumadaan ng main tributaries ng Pasig River, San Juan River, ang mga maliliit na mga estero, no? So what I did was nag-propose ako sa DPWH na kailangan namin ng flood control project. So nagpagawa kami ng mga pumping stations at ako minomonitor ko yan palagi. Yung pumping station na yan gumagana yan. I would call up MMDA, I would call up DPWH pag nag-complain yung nag-complain yung barangay chairman, hindi po gumagana yung pumping station na yan, yung floodgates na yan, hindi gumagana yan. So I would call them up and I would like to find out why na hindi nyo na-maintain yan. Ang aking dito yung the maintenance of the projects. Hindi lamang po yung pagpapagawa ng mga proyektong yan, kundi monitoring it and maintaining it so that magiging maganda. Pangalawa, nakita namin na noon yung mga flood control project sa aking distrito, napakaliit ng mga nilalagay na pipe sa ilalim. So what we did was, binago nila yan. Ginawa nilang culverts yan. Meron akong nagmo-monitor niyan na engineer din ginawang culverts yan, malaki. Kaya somehow ngayon, in my district, wala nang halos baha. Nagbabaha pa rin sa malapit sa mga ilog, no? At pangatlo, syempre, yung mga basura. And I would tell my constituency, sana wag na kayo magtapo ng basura sapagkat matindi ho yan. Even if we have a very good flood control project, but if the people will always throw waste like single-use plastic and everything, wala rin maaari mangyari. Kaya magtulungan tayo lahat. Sabi ko, magtulungan ng gobyerno, magtulungan ng taong bayan. And I believe we're going to have a very good flood control project there.
Pero sir, what accounts for last week's flooding in Manila? I'm not specifically talking about your district kasi I'm not sure exactly. I know your district is Binondo, Quiapo, Santa Cruz, and San Nicolas.
My district is Santa Mesa and
Santa Mesa? Okay, sorry.
Pandacan, yeah. That's the district of Congressman Chua.
Yes, sir. Pero what accounts for the flooding last week sa Manila? Again, not specifically to your district, pero bakit parang ang bilis bumaha last week?
You know, I was surprised that even City Hall was flooded. I really do not know what to say about that, no? Except that perhaps it is high time for us, public officials, from the mayor down to the barangay officials, to really, tell our people, wag na kayong magtapo ng basura because that is the main problem there, no? Of course, the problem is corruption there, no? I don't know, in Manila wala walang corruption diyan. My district, they can investigate and walang corruption diyan, no? But the thing is, kapag talagang hindi natuto ang ating mga kababayan to be disciplined enough not to put wastage in our drainage, talagang babaha. I was surprised that even City Hall was flooded.
Pero sir, do you think that yung pagbaha last week was only because yung pagtapon ng basura? Kasi parang hindi naman nagbago yan magmula dati na parating tatapon, unfortunately, parating tatapon ng basura yung mga Pilipinas sa kung saan-saan. What makes last week different?
It might be, I don't know, I do not actually know the answer. I was really surprised because I think for the first time nakita ko City Hall was flooded and I'm not really surprised about that.
Okay. Sir, kabi naman ako. Si Mayor Magalong, I understand you've had a brief exchange of words, of course not face-to-face, about the issue of yung alleged corruption dun sa flood control projects. Have you been able to talk to Mayor Magalong?
No, I haven't talked to him. I do not know him. And I support his expose. The only thing that I do not like it's that he is making a blanket accusation to the whole house, no? Sabi ko naman, okay yan. If you would like to expose it, pero sana, you name names. You begin to have evidences. Sabi niya, mayroon siyang ibang ebidensya, di present niya sa amin. Ako naman, sabi ko, I believe in a whole government approach where even the executive, the judiciary, the legislative can even investigate. Even a independent commission, if he wants that, and he would like to appear before the independent commission, we would like him to name names, finally, so that charges can be filed against those corrupt public officials. I'm supporting him in the expose, but what I'm not supporting him is that he throw a full blanket statement na lahat yan. You know, hindi dapat ganoon. Pati kami na mga mahuhusay nadadamay diyan. So, sabi ko, bakit Congress lang? Bakit hindi ang mga mayors? Bakit hindi mga governors? Sapagkat corruption is not only in Congress, corruption is all over, from the mayor, the governor, the congressman, the senators, all over. Kaya kinakailangan lang dapat na I do not know why he's doing it. That's the reason why I said that he is like an empty can na walang laman. That's just very noisy. It's not just noise. We would like evidences. We would like names to be given.
Pero sir, what are your plans with regard to, sabi nga ninyo, maaaring ipatawag si Mayor Magalong. Kung sakali ba, is Congress opening any investigation into, number one, flood control projects, and number two, what committee is going to be in charge of this? And then number three, of course, will he be summoned?
I believe that TRICOM has already been created, and that is being led by the Committee on Public Accounts, by Congressman Terry Ridon. Congressman Terry Ridon already has signified that he is going to make an investigation on that. Although, syempre, if we will investigate ourselves, merong bias yan. So ako, I'm calling for an independent investigation on those things. And perhaps Mayor Magalong, that would now be his time for him to be able to reveal and expose all of those things and give all the names kung sino man yung mga yan. All right? Rather than going to the media and just try to make a blanket accusation. Sa amin, mas maganda na kung meron siya mga tinutukoy dyan, magpangalan na siya at ilabas na mga ebidensya.
An independent commission can be created via executive fiat naman, di ba? It does not need Congress's approval.
It can be, yes.
But have you spoken to anybody from Malacanang about this?
No, not yet. I'm just saying it now to the media. So I hope that the president is listening, and we would like to have an independent commission that should tackle this investigation.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Congressman Benny Abante ng 6th District ng Manila. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Do not go away. We'll be right back with more stories after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The ICC, or the International Criminal Court, has received more than 300 applications from victims of former President Duterte's drug war who want to take part in the case against him. The ICC registry called this a limited number compared to the thousands affected by the bloody campaign. The victims' participation process aims to ensure their voices are heard during the confirmation of charges hearing set for next month. The registry said applicants remain committed to seeking justice, believing domestic efforts have failed to hold those responsible to account. Malacanang confirms that the Konektadong Pinoy Bill or Open Access in Data Transmission Act has officially lapsed into law. The measure seeks to expand internet access, streamline licensing for service providers, and encourage new entrants in the telecommunications sector. The Department of Information and Communications Technology supports the law, emphasizing safeguards and the continued applicability of Philippine laws to foreign entities. However, groups warn that the measure could weaken regulation, pose national security risks, and destabilize the sector. Filipino and Australian troops simulated retaking enemy-held ground as part of the ongoing Alon exercise in San Vicente, Palawan over the weekend. Here's the story.
The F-A-50 fighter jet of the Philippine Air Force flew in formation with the F-18 Super Hornet of the Royal Australian Air Force over San Vicente, Palawan. This is part of the ongoing Alon exercise, designed to show how a combined Philippine-Australian force could operate if part of the country's territory needed to be reclaimed from enemy control.
It is very significant because sa nakikita natin ng mga threats that we are facing, Palawan is one of those areas. No? So we have to be able to rehearse the defense of our western seaboard.
Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro and Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles personally observed the drills.
The exercise was very, very impressive, and this is a new venue, and you saw that the coordination between both the Australian forces and the Philippine forces were smooth.
This is about building the interoperability between two countries which share values and have one intent, and that is to uphold the rules-based order in this region.
Last Friday, the Philippines and Australia signed a joint statement of intent to develop a defense cooperation agreement. While the move may be seen as provocative by China, Secretary Teodoro dismissed such concerns.
The criticism basically of the PRC is really paranoia, and it is a propaganda line. Their criticisms are propaganda, which for them and fortunately for us is not working.
The drills come amid rising tensions in the West Philippine Sea, including recent Chinese incursions at a Yungin Shoal, which AFP successfully repelled. AFP Western Command confirmed that troops remain on high alert and ready to respond to any situation.
Nakausap ko sila and they are in high spirits despite yung nangyari. We are always on alert.
In weather, Pag-asa continues to monitor a low-pressure area within the Philippine territory. The low-pressure area was last spotted some 365 kilometers east of Maasin City in southern Leyte. Its chance of developing into a tropical depression remains slim as of the moment, but it is already bringing scattered rains over Visayas, Bicol, northern Mindanao, and the Caraga area. Habagat, meanwhile, will trigger rains over the Zamboanga Peninsula, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan. Metro Manila and the rest of the country may also experience rains due to localized thunderstorms. Up next, geologist and disaster resilience expert Mahar Lagmay explains why the government's focus on infrastructure is an incomplete solution to the nation's worsening floods. Stay tuned. Morning Matters returns after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Ed Lingao, and here in Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Geologist and disaster resilience expert Mahar Lagmay says government efforts to address flooding should not be limited to building flood control infrastructure. According to Lagmay, the executive director of the UP Resilience Institute, it is crucial for local governments to first consult scientists to avoid implementing ineffective flood control measures. This comes amid issues surrounding anomalous flood control projects allegedly linked to corruption, where a large portion of funds reportedly go to government officials, lawmakers, and contractors. Let's discuss that further with Dr. Mahar Lagmay, the director of the UP Resilience Institute. Sir, Doc, magandang hapon. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ed. Ed, ikaw ba yung classmate ko noon sa military police, sa MP dito nung ROTC? O kapatid mo yon?
Kapatid ko yun, sir. Kapatid ko yun.
Kapatid mo?
Although
Okay.
nag-GO 11 ako nung pre-med days ko, so hindi ko ako nagkatagpo tayo. Under Professor Siringan.
Okay.
Sir, teka, I know there's a lot on the table that we can talk about among them the issue about infrastructure and the need for science there. But let me start off with the big picture, sir. I also know you have data to present there, but let me start off with the big picture. This past 2 weeks, we've been talking about flood control projects na kaliwat kanan, sang damuhong perang tinapon, tapos malaking tanong kung talagang epektibo o hindi. From what you can see, from what you have heard, do you have any idea kung ilang percent ng mga flood control projects natin ginagawa ay merong scientific basis o yung tipong ano lang, tapunan mo ng pera yan at titigil ang baha? You know what I mean? More or less out of so many maybe out of 100 flood control projects, ilang porsyento lamang ang talagang based on science?
Hindi ko matasagot yun, kasi hindi ko pa naman napag-aralan yung eksaktong tanong mo. Pero ang pwede kong sagutin ay buhos tayo ng buhos according to sa mga napapanood ko, mga sinasabi ng mga senador, ay we're spending more than $1 billion a day for flood control projects. At matagal na natin ginagawa ito. Pero nakikita natin may problema pa rin tayo sa baha at nagrereklamo pa rin yung mga tao. So baka meron tayong mga iba pang gawin na baka makatulong, di ba? Pag-aralan muna yung lugar kasi case specific naman yung intervention na dapat gagawin sa bawat lugar. Kapag napag-aralan natin na mas mabuti ito, naiintindihan natin yung problema, mas maganda ang solusyon na mabibigay natin. Kasi kung paulit-ulit natin itong gagawin, buhos tayo ng buhos ng 1 bilyon kada araw, at alam naman natin na hindi ito gumagana base doon sa mga reklamo ng mga tao na nakikita natin at nagbabaha at nahihirapan yung mga tao, bakit natin uulit-ulitin? Diba? Dapat gawan natin ng inobasyon, gagawan natin ng makabagong paraan ng pag-approach doon sa problema. Kasi kung hindi natin baguhin to, we are foolish, we are not learning, we are repeating the same mistakes. So we should do something about it.
Actually, sir, it's the height of stupidity nga if you keep doing the wrong thing over and over again, knowing that it's not working.
Wag naman stupidity, foolish.
Okay. Foolishness.
Probably, no? Ewan ko kung may malaking diferensya doon. It's probably less, no? Tayo, para magawa natin ng solusyon. Kasi kung ulit-ulitin natin, that's the height of foolishness.
Sir, of course, kasi pag may gantong issue, whether it's bagyo, baha, or lindol, I always refer to the NOAA website, the one you put up. And it's there for everybody to use. Anybody to use, they just have to, be conscious to go there and use it. It's pretty clear. The graphics are very, very well made and very relatable. From what you can see, but do these, whether politicians or engineers, do they really use your website? Do they bother to go? From what you've seen?
I don't know, pero alam ko maraming gumagamit ng website, no? In the span of 2 years, yung mga nag-location search, ang mga location searches umabot ng 35 million based to sa statistics ng Google na nakita ko.
Okay.
Marami siguro doon mga engineers din. Marami doon siguro doon mga engineers. At ayun,
but I'm hoping the policy makers and the planners,
local, international, banks, real estates, mga realtors, mga LGU, 60% according to the UNDP report gumagamit ng NOAA website. Ride-hailing companies, yung Grab, ginagamit din yung NOAA. At alam ko maraming gumagamit. Sana maraming mga na iba ng mga involved dito sa mga prevention and mitigation of disasters ang gumagamit pa nito.
Sir, so let's go to what you were saying earlier. Why do you think na inadequate lamang ang pagtingin sa infrastruktura bilang solusyon sa problema ng flood control?
Sige, gagawin natin tong simple, as simply explained as I can. Kasi ang normal na ano natin, na pag-iisip or na ginagawa natin, pag sinabing bawasan yung mag-flood control tayo, ang naiisip natin dike, concrete dikes. No?
Yeah.
Pero bakit ba natin kung titignan natin, halimbawa ito, palupaan, okay, patag. Nakikita mo ba? Ed?
Yeah. That's good. Yes,
okay.
sir.
So, bubuhos ang ulan sa lahat ng patag na ito. Okay? Siguro mga malaki na yung 10 centimeters per hour. So imagine mo, dadagdagan mo ng tubig, 10 centimeters. Mga ganyan. Pero hindi naman patag lahat ng kalupaan, di ba? May ganyan.
Yeah.
So lahat ng tubig na yon na 10 centimeters, saan pupunta? Doon sa doon sa pinakamababang lugar, di ba? Nandun yung mga ilog, nandun yung mga sapa, nandun yung baha. So, kung nandun yung baha sa pinakamababa, ang natural na iniisip natin ay maglagay ng dike para yung mga kabahayan sa tabi ng pinakamababang lugar kung saan nagbabaha ay maprotektahan.
Opo.
Meron ng mas malalaki na yung mga baha na nararanasan natin yung mga dike not enough, not high enough to control it. Ito yung mga minsanan lang kada henerasyon nakikita, ngayon mas madalas na, mga 5 beses, 6 na beses na kada buhay ng isang tao, na kung ang tao ay 100 taon, siguro 5 times, 6 times lang nararamdaman. So,
yes,
or nararanasan. Yung dike, hindi enough. So dahil mas malaki yung kalupaan, di ba, malaki naman, baka naman doon sa mga ibang lugar ay meron pa tayong mga ibang intervention. Hindi lang doon sa pinakamababang lugar.
Okay.
Katulad ng, for example, mag-i-enumerate ako ng mga possible interventions. Pwede naman tayo mag-rainwater harvesting, di ba? Para doon pang malayo pa lang doon sa ilog na iimbak na natin yung tubig. Actually, batas nga ito Pwede tayong maglagay ng retention basins para bago umabot pa doon sa sapa o kaya ilog na binabahang mga lugar ay, di ba, nababawasan natin yung runoff towards the areas that are low-lying. Pwede tayong maglagay ng sponge roads. Pwede tayong mag-increase ng absorption ng land. Dito sa Metro Manila, pwedeng dagdagan natin yung mga grasslands, pwedeng dagdagan natin yung mga puno, kasi yung mga puno, nakaka-absorb din naman ng pansamantala ng tubig yan. Ilang galon din ang kayang hawakan yan. So kung maraming mga puno, maraming galon ng tubig, ang ma-hold or ma-retain para maiwasan natin na sabay-sabay yung tubig doon sa sapa. Pwede tayong maglagay ng mga pumps doon sa mga malapit sa mga large bodies of water, malapit sa Manila Bay, dagdagan natin yan. Yung mga drainage canals, pinabibilis natin yung pag-agos ng tubig papuntang sapa o kaya mga ilog. Pag nagsabay-sabay yung tubig doon sa ilog at sapa, ay magbabaha talaga doon sa mga gilid ng sapa pag nag-overflow ito. Halimbawa, pwede pa tayong maglagay ng mga water containments, katulad nung nilagay sa BGC, paramihin pa yan. 5-story water detention tank yung nandun sa ilalim, dagdagan natin. Yung mga parks, katulad noong Parks and Wildlife, yung ito, alam mo to kung taga-UP o kapatid mo, yung Sunken Garden, for example, yung lagoon sa UP ay panatiliing lagoon kasi nakaka-imbak ng tubig yon para hindi sabay-sabay yung tubig doon sa pinakamababang lugar kung saan nandun yung sapa. Pwede pa natin i-widen yung mga waterways if possible. I-declog yung waterways, yung mga laglagay tayo ng garbage catchments. Long term, pwede siguro natin pag-isipan na yung mga settlements, lalo na yung mga critical facilities, ay malayo doon sa mga flood-prone areas na tabi ng sapa, yung mga floodplains na tinatawag, para pagka-gravitate yung population, yung lugar doon sa mga malalayo, doon sa, or iiwas natin doon sa mga alam na nating bahaing lugar. Pwede tayong magtanim ng mga mas maraming puno sa kabundukan para hindi masyadong marami yung surface runoff papunta doon sa low-lying areas. Pwede rin tayong siguro mga mini dams sa itaas, no? Yung maliliit lang, hindi masyadong malalaki.
Just if only to slow down, di ba? If only to slow down.
Natatakot na kung sakaling mag-iba yun, ay buhos ang tubig.
Sir,
I already enumerated more than 10, di ba? More than
Yes,
10 interventions that are location specific. So hindi lang buhos palagi na automatic ay maglagay tayo ng dike. No? Kasi ang kalupaan ay malawak, ang baha ay localized. So gamitin natin yung malawak na kalupaan na yun para mas maganda ang ating approach dun sa pag-solve ng baha.
Sir, if I'm getting it right, what you're saying basically is we don't have to look lamang at the end point and
Exactly.
solve the problem at the end point, by which time baka too late na.
Exactly. Yung endpoint na yon, nandun yun sa mga floodplains, nandun yun sa mga tabi ng sapa, nandun yun sa mga tabi ng ilog. Malawak yung kalupaan, hindi ba? Bago pa pumunta yung tubig, mag-accumulate. Malawak ang kalupaan. Bago pa magpunta dito sa pinakamababang lugar, dito, sinasalo na natin dun sa mga ibang lugar para mas mabawasan yung tubig na nandun sa sapa at ilog.
Actually, sir,
na kung saan tayo naglalagay ng dike, di ba?
Actually, sir, I'm wondering din about that kasi we've heard these ideas even long before yung catchment tunnels under the city or under certain areas, harvesting rainwater. It's not exactly reinventing the wheel. Yun lang, parang we've never been able to move in that direction. I wonder why. Kasi di ba, it's not exactly new science.
Matulis yung tanong mo, ha? Parang may gusto kang tumbukin.
Wala.
But anyway, So ayun na nga, hindi naman bago ito eh. Pag samasamahin lang natin, maliit man ang contribution, pag nagsama-sama yan, magiging mas malaki ang contribution. Pero hindi lang tayo dapat nakafocus doon sa tabi na lang ng ilog o tabi ng sapa na kung saan nagbabaha. Dapat malayo pa lang yung tubig, nababawasan na natin o nai-imbak na natin, na-absorb, nare-retain bago para mabawasan yung dami ng tubig no sa mga mabababang lugar.
Actually, sir, what I really meant to ask was is there an economic factor here? That's why we don't seem to go for those long-term solutions that you've been talking about, and instead aim for the endpoint solution, if you'd call it a solution at all. Is there an economic factor here?
Siguro, no? Malamang meron kasi hindi ba yung mga flood control, yung mga dike, pag may action nakikita ng mga tao hindi ba? Pag nakikita yan ay may ginagawa yung si mayor, may ginagawa yung governor, may ginagawa ang gobyerno, no? Pero kasi yung mga ibang mga naibanggit ko, yung iba doon long term, yung iba doon hindi talagang visible, highly visible.
Underground.
Of course, yung dike mahal, 'di ba? Pero parang pilit natin palagi na yun ang focus, no? So kumbaga 1.3 billion a day, pwede naman natin ilagay yan sa iba. Subukan naman natin yung iba, bawasan. Kasi tingnan mo, Ed, ang ating mga losses at saka mga damage from natural hazards every year costs us 50 billion pesos. Okay? Mga tatlong dekada na yan. Cost-adjusted, 50 billion pesos a year. Pero noong 2022, ang ginastos natin ay 150 billion a year. 2024, maybe probably more than 300 billion a year. So, bakit tayo gumagastos ng ilan ba yun? 6 times more? Tama ba? 50 billion, di ba? Mas malaki pa na i-inflict ng tao yung cost natin na ginagawa nating mali kaysa sa ginagawa ng kalikasan, sa impact ng kalikasan. So, there's something wrong there, di ba?
Something wrong with the math, no?
Ano?
There's something wrong with the math.
Mali,
in the
di
way.
ba? Mas matindi
I
pa
get what
tayong
you're
gumastos
looking at.
kaysa sa nagagawa ng kalikasan, sa impact ng baha tsaka mga natural hazards. Kasi 50 billion lang yun. Gumagastos tayo na 150 billion, sometimes 300
Times
billion.
7, oh,
So,
350.
we can be brighter than that.
Okay. That's a very interesting way of looking at the math. Sir, teka, I'd like to go back to what you said a while ago and related to the need for scientific basis or scientific studies before you go jumping into a project. May binanggit ka sa kayo kanina. It sounds good to improve drainage systems, but you also have to be careful that because drains will make it faster for the water to get to the river, and it might be too fast, and you'll have a swollen river which may cause greater danger. So may ganun ding it's not about making everything go faster. It's about being systematic about things.
Calculating everything. Oo. Timing is very important.
So in a way, baka nga yung pag-improve minsan, at least minsan pag-improve ng drainage systems might even make it more dangerous to some communities?
Well, halimbawa, nilagyan mo ng simento yung isang ilog. Ang mangyayari doon, pinabibilis mo yung tubig papunta sa low-lying areas. O pag binabilis mo yung tubig papuntang low-lying area at maraming sapayan na mas mabilis, din sa mababang lugar, mas lalong nag-i-impact yung tubig. Mas mataas yung tubig, di ba? Mas mataas ang baha. So, yung mga ganon, again, case-specific, hindi naman mga generalization yung gusto kong sabihin dito.
Yes, sir.
Ang gusto kong sabihin ay pag-aralan na mabuti ang bawat lugar, alamin kung ano yung mga problema, kasi doon pa lamang natin mahahanap yung pinaka-optimum na solution. Hindi yung automatic lang, hindi, ang kailangan natin dito, flood control.
Sir, let me bring up an example that we cited a while ago in the newscast. Yung sa Kandating Arayat, I hope the numbers are right, the slope protection project was built in 2018 for 20 million pesos. That sounds kind of low, for 20 million pesos in 2018. Because of all the damage through the years, may repair spending tayo na 91 million in 2023, tapos in 2024, 183 million. So parang yung repair every year na at palaki ng palaki, samantalang yung original project cost is so small. Have you heard about this, sir, itong Kandating? Kasi it came out in the news over the weekend,
Hindi, sorry hindi ko nabalitaan yan. Masyadong maraming ginagawa. Tsaka masyadong maraming balita kung ano klaseng balita, At ang ayaw natin kasing mangyari nalululong tayo sa, ayoko naman tawaging bisyo ito, Pero nalululong tayo doon sa mga ginagawa natin that we end up spending more. Na actually, kapag gumagawa ka ng mga solution, ng mga paraan na more closer to nature-based solutions, the less expensive it becomes. So kailangan mas tumitingin tayo ng mga alternatibo na kahit maliit lang yung contribution, pag nagsama-sama yon, malaki at hindi tayo nalululong doon sa mga ginagawa natin ng mga kinamalayan na natin or parang we're so used to doing. Baka pwede nating palitan. Hindi ko naman sinasabing hindi din epektibo yung mga yan, Yung mga maliliit na baha, katamtamang baha ay nakakadulot din ng damage, nakakaprotekta din yan. Pero ang gusto talaga natin ay medyo mas long-term solution, mas less expensive dahil limited din ang resources natin dito sa Pilipinas. Maaari kasing magamit natin yung pera na yon kapag mas targeted, mas napag-aralan, na less expensive at yung extra ay pwede natin maibigay pa doon sa mga ibang mas magagandang programa ng bayan.
At higit sa lahat, napag-isipan at napag-aralan. Hindi yung pinasok lang.
Oo, hindi yung automatic na lang. Dito tayo, na ito, maganda ito, kasi visible, kasi okay. visible, nandyan, nakikita ng tao, okay yan para sa boto. So pag pinag-aral, mag-invest muna tayo ng konti sa pag-aaral, tapos tsaka natin gawan ng paraan, ano, banatan ng mga solusyon. Yun, ang tingin ko ay napaka-importante. Kasi kailangan palaging science-based and risk-informed yung ating mga ginagawa, at saka data-driven dapat yung mga solutions.
Okay. Sir, balik ako sa Project Noah. I think you have data you want to show. Am I correct?
Sige, meron actually. Meron akong gustong ipakita sa inyo, no. Ito yung binigay ko lang na presentation if you would allow me.
Go, sir, go.
No? Okay, so ito pinag-aaralan namin. Sa unang-unang ang pangunahing dahilan talaga ng baha ay ulan, ulan. Pinag-aaralan namin ito, no, throughout many years. Tinitignan namin saan nagbabaha, binibilang namin yung bawat patak ng ulan, galing Doppler. Pinag-aaralan namin yung mga bagyo, bakit niya na-enhance yung habagat, etc. No? Dito makikita din natin dito sa imahe na ito na ang buhos pala ng ulan during habagat ay nanggagaling pala, ang dahilan pala doon dahil doon sa mga kabundukan, mga bulkan doon sa Bataan, Maribeles at Natib. So nakikita natin dito kung nasaan yung arrow ko, no, na yung puti doon yung malakas na ulan nanggagaling siya sa Maribeles. At depende kung anong klaseng habagat, minsan pag natutok kunyari doon sa Cavite, doon yung malakas na ulan. Dito naman, dito sa kaliwang panel, galing sa Mount Natib, pupunta doon sa Bulacan. Ito naman sa Maribeles, pupunta doon sa Quezon City at Valenzuela. So iba-iba ang buhos ng ulan, ano? Tapos pag tinignan natin, ito patawan na lang 'yon. Na yung dating mga ulan na malakas na madudulot ng malaking baha na minsan lang kada henerasyon ay ngayon mas madalas na. So kung ang sukatan ngayon ay yung Marikina River, 20 meters level, yung Ondoy ay 22, pero nakikita natin yung above 20 na taas ng Marikina River, nagkaroon ng Ulysses nagkaroon ng Carina, nagkaroon ng habagat noong 2018, habagat noong 2012. Hindi na lang minsanan kung hindi madalas na kada henerasyon. Kumbaga sa buhay mo, hindi lang once in a lifetime, kung hindi several times in a lifetime na yung mararanasan mo malalaking mga baha. So yung flood control natin, pagka yan tinayo natin, halimbawa, DPWH makes at maximum na to, sobra-sobra na to. Yung once, kung 50 years ang buhay mo, once mo mararanasan. Yung mga once na mas malalaki, every 100 years na mararanasan, ay hindi nakakayanin ng mga dike. So yan yung tinatawag na 100-year rain return. So kumbaga 100 years ang buhay mo, several times mo nang nararanasan. Yeah. At several times mo rin makikita na yung flood control structure ay hindi nagagana. Ano pa kaya pag may climate change na mas mataas pa? So yun yung nakikita natin. Halimbawa ito sa Valenzuela. Ang ano naman, walang relasyon ito sa Marikina River. Walang relasyon ito sa Pasig River.
Yes, sir.
Pero may babaha sa Valenzuela. At pagka yan ang normal na ilog, pag tumaba, ganyan. So kailangan bawat lokasyon na yan pinag-aaralan. Halimbawa dito sa lugar na yan mga yan, iba-iba ang mga problema diyan. Iba't iba ang solusyon diyan sa mga lugar na yan. 2 slides na lang tayo, no?
Yes,
lalagay natin dito. So halimbawa ito, mayroon tayong sapa o ilog. Kapag may habagat na napakalakas ng ulan, ito ay tumataba. At lahat ng mga lugar na yan, doon sa gilid ng ilog na yan na kulay blue, yun yung mga dapat meron tayong intervention. So ang gusto natin, mapababa yung dami ng tubig dyan, hindi magsabay-sabay yung tubig. At there are many interventions. Bago pa umabot doon sa mga sa sapa o creek na umaapaw na yan, ay nababawasan na natin yung tubig. So hindi lang dike ang solusyon, di ba? Case specific ito, pag-aaralan natin, nabanggit ko yung maraming mga paraan, rainwater harvesting, pagdami ng absorb ng mga kalupaan na nag-absorb, mga puno, mga catchment facilities, detention basins, retention basins, at kung ano-ano pa. Nakapagbanggit yata ako ng 13 mga other ways bukod doon sa dike na pinag-uusapan natin. Ayun na lang muna at
yes, sir.
Sana gusto ko pang makapag-explain pero nandun. So case
Sorry, sir, we're out of time
education is also very important.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate, sir, especially the maps kasi talagang it really shows you how big and systematic the problem is. It's not just one solution thing, but it kailangan pag-isipan talaga. Anyway, we'd like to say thank you very much kay Dr. Mahar Lagmay. Always a pleasure to have you, sir, on board, the director ng UP Resilience Institute. Sir, thank you for joining us this morning. Maraming salamat and we hope to see you again.
Maraming
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you just the right start for your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.